Hi, I'm Carolyn Bradfield with Copper Conferencing. I'm here with Walter Green.
Hi, Carolyn.
Who has had a lot of experience in the industry in conferencing. And one of the things that Walter and I have been talking back and forth about is the customer experience and what people really should expect and demand from their conferencing companies. And so as we think about what customers ought to experience and what they are experiencing, Walter, I understand, in your prior experience, there's a pretty big gap there. So how would you describe that gap and what's happening from the customer's perspective?
I would definitely say there's a huge gap, and I would say it comes in strictly from the standpoint of the customer. They don't own their experience. They have a difficulty actually setting up moderators, difficulty getting an account established, and so many hurdles to jump through that at the end of the day, all they want to do is control their conferencing, be able to go in, add a moderator, be able to go in, set up a brand new account, and utilize conferencing. And that should be easy. And I think from the customer experience standpoint, that's what we're looking to provide.
All right, so you said that you think that the customer needs to control their experience. Based on the companies that you've worked with in the past prior to Copper, why has that experience been out of control?
I would say one of the reasons it's been out of control is because the lack of responsiveness from the salesperson. If a customer calls in looking for a moderator list, well, we were taught that you have to stall that person. Don't connect with that person. Put that person on the back burner because they're looking for a different vendor. So basically what you want to do is keep as much information away from the customer as you possibly can, which is definitely not what the customer's looking for. They want their information. It's their information. They should have access to that information.
Well, that's got to create a lot of frustration for the customer. One curiosity I have is you've worked for very large companies. How easy is it to figure out who the person is that you need to ask to do these account management functions?
It's not easy at all because it changes so much. You got to think of the turnover that's at a large corporation. One of the corporations I work with, I can say this, that I've worked with about 5 different people in 5 different roles within a month period. So from the customer standpoint, there's no type of continuity. I don't know who to go to. Who do I talk to this week? Who do I talk to next week? There's nothing that's constant from the customer standpoint. So they don't know where to go or who to talk to.
One of the things that I've noticed in the industry, and certainly I think has been true in your prior experience, is that customers are also having very difficult time understanding how they're charged for conferencing. They see an invoice, it's really difficult for them to understand it, and all of a sudden a small call becomes a huge expense. Describe for me why that is.
And I would say the reason that is because the conferencing companies are not being honest with the customers. You don't know exactly what you're paying. You're paying more than you're actually getting. There's all type of hidden fees, all type of hidden charges that the customer's not aware of. So, by the time they reach out and grab somebody and ask somebody about these fees, they've been paying them now for a couple of years. And so that's frustrating. That adds to the frustration of not knowing who to talk to. That adds to the frustration of not knowing what I'm paying. My rate says I'm at 6 cents. But when I factor in all these other fees, I'm really at 15 cents per minute for what I've been doing for the past couple of years. That's very frustrating.
Well, describe for me what type of fees you're talking about. What would be some examples of fees? If I were a customer and I were looking at my invoice, what should I be looking for that might pop up there that I was unaware of?
One of the things you want to take a look at is your conference minimum. That's basically saying you have to have a certain amount of usage to actually qualify not to receive that minimum. You want to make sure you're not being charged for your post-conference summary fee. There's a telecom fee, there's a surcharge fee, there's taxes, there's all kind of fees that can kind of be, I don't want to use the word bamboozled, but a lot of customers feel that way. They feel that way when they look at their invoices and you say you're paying 6 cents a minute, and then you find out you've been bamboozled, you've signed this contract now, and now you have all these fees that have been added to your account. So it's very disheartening for a customer.
So in your prior experience with the larger company, if a customer pointed that out to you, did you have the ability to go retroactively in the past, go change these hidden fees and charges? What happened there?
Usually what you would talk to do is to talk to the customer about right now. What I can do for you right now is, if you'll sign a contract with us, I'll take these fees away. Well, I'm not going to do that retroactively because we've already spent that money. That money's already been dealt with. But let's just start our relationship for right now, which the customer is the only person who loses in that equation. Well, the major company has benefited from that money being there. The customer has spent that money, but they haven't really been getting what they're paying for. So the only person that's losing in this equation is the customer.
You know, one of the things that I've seen in the industry that's been a pretty big trend is consolidation. Companies have bought smaller companies, and then all of a sudden they've become this big behemoth conferencing company. Certainly our industry is dominated by two very large providers. What happens to a customer base and to these accounts when they've been acquired by these larger companies?
Usually what I've seen in my experience, the small to medium-sized customers are kind of lost in the shuffle. They're kind of just hanging out there. There's nobody that represents them. There's not an account manager assigned to them. The major accounts that come over in acquisition receive all the attention. They get all the touches. That's the revenue that the big company wants to keep. So if you're in that medium size, let's say you're doing $5,000, $7,000 a month, you're not really on their radar. So you're not getting the touches or the attention that you need. So you're kind of lost account, pretty much. You're just kind of hanging in limbo.
You know, don't the customers really feel like they deserve better than that? And what is the company's perspective on, you know, when a customer really asks for, hey, treat me better than this, how's the company's philosophy being carried forward?
In my opinion, the philosophy is, where are they going to go? I mean, we're the big boys on the block. We've got the conferencing on lock. So where else can the customer go? And so basically in their mind, if they leave, there's always going to be that circle that they're always going to end up coming back. And I think the customer gets to a point where they feel squeezed, like they don't have a choice with conferencing. And I think that's what Copper is here to do. Let them know they do have a choice in how they do business and who they choose as their conferencing provider.
All right, so here we are at Copper Conferencing. We're a much smaller company than the two biggest players in the industry. How do you think we can be competitive against a much bigger company, especially the two big players that dominate the industry?
I think by the customer experience, by letting the customer know you're the reason we're in business. You're the reason why we get up and come to work in the morning. If you don't do conferencing with us, then we don't have anything. And I think some of the big boys have forgotten that. I think they've gotten so caught up in the revenue that the customer is not a person anymore. They're not there to help the productivity with the company that they're representing. They're just there to get the revenue. And I think what separates us is you're a person here, and you're a customer, and you're going to be treated as such.
Well, so what I'm hearing from you, Walter, is that historically your experience with the larger company is they're relatively difficult to do business with. The customer really doesn't have control over their information and over their account. Oftentimes they don't know who their contact is. They're being charged a lot of hidden fees that if they don't notice them right away, they're going to go unnoticed for a long time, raising their effective rate per minute. And what's worse for me and disappointing for the industry is the customer is treated like they don't deserve any better than that. So I think that's really our opportunity here at Copper is to make a change with that. So thank you for that insight. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Carolyn. Thank you very much.